Hey everyone, welcome back to West Coast Mopars. This will be a part 2 of this 58 Plymouth Suburban. It's a two-door wagon. It's a really rare car. I've never seen, well, I shouldn't say I've never seen another one in person because I do have another one as a parts car. But other than the two I have, I've never seen one in person. I've never seen, actually I've never even seen a 58 Plymouth wagon around here. They're rare cars to begin with. Anyways, this car I got from my friend Joe. It was sitting in his field. He bought it, I think he said 1972. Now I do have the paperwork in my name. I was able to get all that when I got the car from Joe. If you guys watch part 1, you will see we put an engine in it that I got out of a parts car in the back. It's a 58 Chrysler 354 Poly. It's what they call a Spitfire. Same as the Hemi, it's just got poly heads. It's a pretty cool engine. Yeah, we started going through it, cooling system, getting it ready to run. Right now, it's mid-February, and I'm hoping to get this car together for the end of May, which is our West Coast Mopars car show. So I'd like to take it there. The body and paint I did myself. The body work is terrible when you get up close and look at it, but you know what? I'll attach a picture of how the car looked when I found it. And at least then you guys can sort of see what we started with. But yeah, this will be part 2. So I've just pulled the rear brakes apart. I've got wheel cylinders coming today, I think, in the mail, and some other brake parts. I've got some shoes in the back that actually came out of my 57 Royal over there when I swapped the rear end years ago, but the shoes are still in good shape, so I'm going to use those here. Yeah, and I've got the rear hose to change. These leaf springs are actually in pretty nice shape. I was a little worried they'd be cracked and broken, but they look pretty good. So yeah, I used the hub puller back here. This is that Chrysler hub puller, because these are tapered hubs, so all 8 3/4 from 57 to 64 used a tapered rear axle, and some guys hate them. If you get the hub puller and once you start figuring out how to pull these hubs off, they're not bad. Now you can see here this is a tapered axle, and the drum is normally riveted to this hub. There's the other side. There's normally a Woodruff key in there, or a key to lock it in. But I just cut the rivets off this hub. You can see here, where the rivets were, is the smaller holes. One of these actually had a big pin that was for centering the wheel, because without the studs in the hub, these ones have been welded in, or at least most of them have. This one's a bit loose, but without the studs, then you'd have just the bolts, like these guys, the wheel bolts. And so you'd need that centering pin to center the wheel so you could get those started, so you're not holding a heavy wheel. Anyways, I just cut all the rivets off, and then this drum, which is in really nice shape inside, I'm not even going to turn it, it's actually really good, can just slip over the studs, and there you go. You can remove the drum to check your brakes. You don't have to pull the hub, so this is the way to go, I think. Then I can just keep the original 8 3/4 in the back. Tapered axles, who cares? It doesn't matter, because we've made it now so you can access the brakes by removing the drum and not the hub. Okay, this morning I mounted these tires on these rims. So the rims are 15x7 steel wheels. I'm still going to paint them. I just got them mounted, and I just wanted to see what it looked like with the hubcaps and stuff. These are old 60s Plymouth dog dish hubcaps I've had for years. I kept them actually for this project. These wheels actually came off the back of that 77 Chrysler. It had some nice wide steel wheels. I do have a bunch of other 15x7s. Originally, I was going to run these tires on all 4 corners, but they're quite wide. They're 255, 60, 15. I got these for free from a buddy, but I realized 2 of them are really badly weather checked all along the centers of the treads. They're all split. These 2 that I used are better. They're not split. They're just kind of older. So I'm going to run them for now, and probably keep my eye open for some better ones in the future, but they'll work for now. They work for mock-up, and they'll work for, you know, driving it around, getting to know the car. But yeah, they look pretty cool on there. I like how wide they are. I'm going to keep that look, I think. Nice wide meats on the back. And then up front, I'm just going to go with, these are just what was on here, but I'm going to just do some skinny 15s. So just have wide ones on the back and skinnier ones up front. And then I've started pulling apart the passenger side to begin the disc brake swap. So here is what the brakes that are on there look like. Yeah, this is what Chrysler used from, I don't know what year it started, 56 maybe? These ones have these like holders, these things. How you take them out, you just take some pliers and you just twist this. This pops off, right? It's got a little tab on the back. So you just twist these come off. Then you remove these springs, and what I like to use is just like a drift, and just put it in here. Oh, there goes my light. Just pull on it, it'll come free. Same with the other side. And then you can remove the shoes, right? They're pretty simple. There's the shoes out now. Yeah, and then remove, you know, probably remove the wheel cylinder line between, so I can easily get to these 4 bolts, take these out, and the backing plate and everything is going to come off. Then we can then we can get to the spindle and the ball joints and stuff. I did buy new ball joints. We'll see if they're the right ones. So yeah, just going to get this pulled apart. I'll have to remove this tie rod end as well, and hopefully these are good because I can't find any. This is the spindle from the Diplomat. Now you have to use this bottom arm from the Diplomat, not the one from the drum brakes. This is the one from the drum brakes, and it's different. It won't bolt on. But what I did notice is that it changes the geometry on your steering. This wheel used to be pointing straight. Now it's actually pointing like it's turned to the left a little bit, because this arm's a bit different. It's got a different angle, so I'll have to loosen off the adjusting sleeves and redo my my alignment. But yeah, here's the rotor. I didn't even turn it. I actually just wire wheeled it. It's got a couple small grooves in it here. I'm not too worried about them. They're very minor. I can barely even feel them. I put new bearings and races in here. I just packed them. The other bearings here waiting to go in. Cleaned up the spindle. I've got new calipers and new pads. I did put in new ball joints, upper and lower. Now the ball joints are for the wagon. They're not for the Diplomat, but I'm pretty sure they're the same part number. But I just wanted to be sure. And then the only thing I did modify is I cut that arm at the back, right there. That's the end of the strut rod. I did cut that off because when you're steering, the way it sticks out, you can't turn the wheels far enough with this setup. So I cut that off. But other than that, that's the only thing I had to modify. So if you guys are wondering about doing this FMJ body disc brake swap, it is super easy. This literally took me like maybe 2 hours to get to this point, and most of the time was involved in removing the old drum brakes and ball joints. Putting this stuff in is super, super easy. I did end up swapping it around so that the caliper was on the front, and I did that because the brake hose was not going to reach with it on the back, because the mount is still up front here. So rather than have to order brake hoses that I'm never going to remember what I ordered or have to keep a list of parts in the glove box, I figured let's just keep it all 1980 Dodge Diplomat, and then if I need to replace something, I just buy the hose or I buy the caliper, and it just makes sense. Right now I'm currently swapping out this blower motor housing. So this was the one in it, but it's broken on the sides here. It's actually, yeah, the mounting surface is all broken. So this other one came out of that 58 Dodge parts car. Now I do have actually like 3 or 4 of these back there. Aside from, I also have the ones in the parts cars. I don't know why I have so many of these. But, so anyways, this one came out of the 58 Dodge. It was the best shape. The mounting surface is nice. The rubber gasket was nice. This ring that comes on them, I'll show you on my on the 57 here what it's for, because these cars all basically use the same heater assemblies. That ring is this one right here, and they always are broken. They just split at the back and then they fall off, and all that does is when the blower motor is blowing, it blows air into this box here, and that ring is just like a gasket between the two. It's kind of a goofy setup. They just put it on the outside, but yeah, it's hard to find a ring that's not broken. So that one's pretty good. Now the other thing is I'm going to change this box because it's split back there where it mounts to the firewall. Like, it's all cracked. It's cracked over here. It's cracked at the heater core. It has some cracks underneath too. And it's covered in overspray. When I painted the car, I didn't mask off any of this stuff. So I figured I'll just change it for like a nicer black one rather than painting an old cracked one. And the other reason, the reason I really got into all this, well, I got to fix that blower motor thing. But the heater core, I don't know if it's any good. So I wanted to take it out and look at it and just maybe run some water through it and see what it does. See if there's any obvious leaks. I mean, they're easy enough to change, but I am sort of in the middle of plumbing the water lines, the heater hoses and stuff. So it'd be nice to just fix that before we hook it all up and then have it leak right away. The belts are in. So I did have to run this tensioner. I wasn't sure at first, like the engine didn't have it, right? I guess the last guy took it. It's basically just a 2-groove pulley on this little arm, and it does have an adjuster slot there. So this is how you put tension on the water pump, because with the generator mounted way up here, you can't, there's no way to tension the water pump. You just have the belt come off the crank pulley up to the water pump pulley and over to the generator. There's not enough movement in the adjuster to tighten it around the water pump. Like, it would only be touching this left side and a little bit of the top of the water pump. That's not enough to spin the pulley properly. That's all done. I've got the bypass hose in. Down below, I don't have the lower rad hose yet. I got to figure that out. And yeah, spark plugs are in. Bunch of little stuff. Haven't really gotten to the wiring yet. I'm just going to deal with this heater box assembly and then move on from there. Okay, and now I just got the blower motor here. I've got a bunch of these, but this one was the one that was in the Plymouth, in the wagon, and I figured I'd see if it works. I've already figured out the pins. So there's 3 pins. The bottom pin, if you can see it there, that is ground, and I only know that because on the harness there's a ground wire, and I just toned it out with a meter to figure out which wire went to which pin. So that's ground. The top 2 are the different motor speeds. I know in the A body here, the motor speed, the fan speeds are actually determined by a resistor that's in the heater box assembly, and as you put voltage to as you turn the switch to, say, like slow, it actually just puts 12 volt to the resistor, but the resistor cuts it down to a lesser voltage to make the motor spin slower. So if you have on full speed, the wire goes straight to the motor and doesn't go through the resistor. That's how that works. This one looks like it actually maybe has different speeds, kind of. Maybe there's a resistor behind here, but there's not one like in the car. So anyways, what we're going to do is ground it. So I've got, I've just got a battery here with a jumper. We're going to go straight to ground on the bottom with an alligator clip. Then I've got a wire with a female terminal, and I'm just going to go to one of the pins on the top, and I'm just going to touch the wire straight to positive on the battery, and we'll watch and see if this fan moves. Okay, so that works, and that actually works pretty good. It's not making a bunch of terrible noises. We'll just hold it for a few minutes here, or a few seconds, just to see if it keeps going. You know, if that motor gets hot or something and it just stops working, but it seems to be doing what we want it to do. Now, if we move this wire to the other terminal, it'd be nice to see. We got to be careful not to short it out against the ground there, because it's really close. But it'd be nice to see if that's, hopefully that was low speed, and then we'll have a high speed. Oh yeah, look at that, blowing everything around over here. So that is high speed and it works excellent. Okay, so that's all there is to it. It's pretty easy to test stuff. You know, the only thing I wouldn't test with 12 volts is your gauges, because they have a voltage limiter that prevents 12 volts from going to them. If you hit them with 12 volts, they'll just fry. But a lot of this stuff, your blower motor, your wipers, that kind of stuff, it's pretty easy to test to see if it works. I'd hate to put this whole assembly in the car and then find out that it doesn't work. Got this, I put this heater box in this morning. That's the different one that's not all cracked and broken. We'll put that blower motor in beside it, and then we can run the heater hoses over here, and we can figure out a lower rad hose, and then I'm going to move on to probably electrical, trying to get this thing wired. Okay, so I'm sort of jumping all over the place here, but I've been working under the dash. I've got the headlight switch. I took it out, cleaned it up. I've got it working. The wiper switch works. It's just a single speed wiper. That's it. I've got the blower motor working. I'll show you guys here. When I turn the key also, you can see this light turns on. It's pretty cool. I never even changed that bulb, so that's been from like the 70s. But here's the blower motor. I don't know if you can hear it there. Anyways, it's a 2-speed blower motor. They both work. I've lubed up the cables here to get this to slide back and forth. I did manage to get the defrost cable to move, which is great. So now that works. Okay, I've just been picking away at the 354. I got the fuel line made up. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that carb there. That's a 750. I just put a rebuild kit in it. It looks like crap on the outside, but it wasn't too bad on the inside. I don't think I'm going to run that carb though on this engine. I kind of just put it on there for mock-up for the fuel line. I just bent a hard line up, flared the ends. I find if you guys don't, you know, if you want to use a steel line, what I do is I've got a flaring tool for brake lines and stuff. Don't do a double flare. Just do the first part, like the single, the first part when you do a double flare. And it flares the end in a really nice way that you can slip the fuel hose over it. But if you do a double flare, the edge ends up too sharp and you'll cut through the fuel line. So that's my sort of trick with that. Got the rad hoses in, lower is in. I've got the heater hoses done there. I kind of ran this one a little short. Hopefully it doesn't get in the way of the carb linkage. Pulleys are in, the generator's in. I have wired the generator. And so I should have looked upstairs in my parts. I went ahead and ordered a regulator, and then I went upstairs, and I've actually got 2 of them. So this is one of the ones that was upstairs. That starter relay I bought for something else, but it works here. Yeah, put some battery cables in it. That one goes down to the starter down there. I've got a ground strap, one of those braided straps for the back of the engine. I'm just going to put it to the master cylinder bolts, because those are about the cleanest thing I have for a ground when I get that together. There's oil in it now. I have not yet put coolant in it. I'm a little nervous that this rad's going to leak, so I'm just kind of waiting to the end, and then I'll probably use that iron tight stuff, just that rad sealer. I don't know. I did solder the rad, but we'll see. We'll see if it leaks. I feel like there's going to be some other pinholes and stuff. I still got to hook up the wiring here for the headlights, and they all go to this bus bar thing here. Yeah, and I put the hood spears on. See how they're separate? They're further apart than the 57. So hood spears are on. I've still got, there's a hole here. That's for the little squirters for the windshield washer. I got to do that. I've got the headlight, both headlight bezels are in. This side was kind of goofy. Some of the stuff was broken behind it. The passenger side went in really nicely. I've got the cover for it there. I've got to find these caps. I don't know what happened to them. I thought I had them, so they're in the shop somewhere. Yeah, and I got the bumpers mounted. There's this emblem here is in. I've got an old license plate on there, 1957. Thought it suited the car. I've got this back together. It's kind of goofy looking with the crimp on things here, but it is what it is. Yeah, I've got to get a grommet here so these wires don't get sliced up. Under the hood, I haven't done too much. You know, I've just been picking away at minor electrical. I did get both headlights to come on. Both taillights come on. The turn signals work in the rear, but not in the front. So I've got to figure that out. Yeah, a bunch of little things, but figured I may as well get the wiper motor working. Then that's one less thing to have to do under the dash. Yeah, and I've got a radio delete plate for it because I don't have a radio. I just looked under there and there is a speaker, so there obviously was a radio at some point. But yeah, it's interesting how bare bones this car is, though. I mean, it's a two-door Suburban. It had a V8, it had an automatic, but there's no light here for the parking brake. Like my 57 Royal there has a light. And I've got another Plymouth dash, and it does have a hole for a light. So there's no light for the parking brake. The ashtray has no lighter. I've got a single-speed wipers, but I have two-speed fan. I mean, it's funny you think of cars nowadays, and it's like, you know, everything. You got everything. You got heated seats, heated steering wheels. Everything's electric. You know, but back in the day, like back in the 50s, you had to pay extra money to have two speeds. Okay, and here's the seat I've got for it. So this seat came out of a 58 Dodge Custom Royal out at my friend Joe's place. And it's actually a power bench seat. It's a pretty rare seat, actually. Okay, I got all the trim on. So there's the door trim. I think it really makes up the difference. It really makes the car look better with all the trim on. You can sort of see it follow through on the door here. Now, if you look closely, you'll see, well, you don't even look close, but this trim's different than this trim. That's because this trim was on the car when I got it. It actually sat up higher, went all the way through. I only had the rear piece, though. I didn't have the rest of it. So, but this trim actually came off my parts car, and I think this is called the Sport trim. I quite like it. It breaks up the body line, like, or the paint. Like you have something lower, and then up high you got a different color. I think it looks quite nice. I like how they did it. It's funny though, they never continued it on the rocker, and that's just how it is. It ends here on the door, and then you just have the paint line on the rocker. I always thought that was kind of funny. So here's the other side. This side was a little worse. This piece is banged up. I bought a piece from a guy in the interior. He sent me these two long ones and a bottom one, but it's actually shorter, so I don't know what it's from. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe different years. They moved them lower or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, I got this side done as well. Same thing. It's got that different trim on the quarter, but who cares? And then I was cranking on it to see what would happen, and try and figure out timing and stuff. And it seemed to crank really slowly, and it was kind of weird. Anyways, I realized I had no spark, and one of my battery cables was really small, so I changed those out. I had no spark though. I had nothing out of the coil, so I pulled the distributor cap. Hard to verify if the points are working because I had no voltage to them, and it was the ballast resistor. So I had put an old used one in, and it was bad. So I did have a new one in something else, or in the glove box of this car. So I verified I got spark. Then I turned the key. All of a sudden it was like the timing was very advanced because it's kicking back on the starter, which is partly probably why it felt slow. So I retarded it a bunch. I cranked it, and it fired off for like a second, which is great. We'll play with it more from there. But I noticed I've got a huge oil leak underneath the car, and I looked over, and it was dripping out of this housing. This is my oil filter housing. The filter's down there. It was dripping out of this, and I pulled this off, and I tried to reseal it, and it kept dripping and kept dripping. So I did some more investigating. This piece is what bolts to the block. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a crack right there. So I don't know if that crack was there before and I just didn't notice it, or maybe I over tightened it and it cracked. I've never cracked one of these before, so I'm not sure why it cracked. This one's aluminum, I think. Now, this car has the same filter housing. I've changed the filter once, I think, and everything went fine. I didn't have to worry about it. So I'm thinking like, well, where do I have another one of those things? Well, I've got one right here on this 354. And I don't know when I'm going to get to this engine, so I'm going to steal this thing. I'm going to inspect it closely for cracks, and then put it on that 354. I do have that 331, but it's all complete. I don't really want to start ripping stuff off of it. I'm just going to leave it alone. And I might dig. I've got a pile over there of early Hemi parts, so I might dig through that as well. and see if maybe there's one laying in that pile of stuff over there. But on a side note, look at this clock I got. This is an old Seth Thomas, it's called. It's like, there's no date code on it, but from what I could find online, it looks like it's a 1906, 1907-ish kind of thing. It's all run by like springs and gears. It doesn't plug in. There's no batteries or anything like that. Just an old clock. But it was my dad's. I don't know where it came from. I don't know any history on it. But he died in 2010. So my sister, he gave this clock to my sister, and she just put it in storage. She didn't know what to do with it, and it ended up with my mom, who I guess turned on some of the knobs and tried to get it working but couldn't. So I ended up. She gave it to me just the other day, and I pulled it apart and sort of stared at the gears for a while and realized one of the arms was bent funny and one of the gears was looking wonky, so I straightened it all up, and I don't know if you guys can hear it now. If you can hear it ticking, but it's been working for 3 or 4 days now, and I've just been having to mess with the middle. There's a little screw in the middle there. See, there's a key here. This is the key for it. So the big side, you wind up the springs. One side does the chimes and one side does the clock part. And then the other little key is for the centerpiece, which is you just turn it to the right to get it to speed up or left to slow down. So I'm trying to set it perfect time, and I think I've got it. We're reading 3:42. And if I look over here at this clock, which is plugged in, this thing's from the 50s as well, but 3:42. So I think I got it, but it's pretty cool. I just got to make a note to wind it up once a week. So probably every Sunday when I'm out here, I'll wind up the springs, and it's just got a little pendulum in the back that swings back and forth with a gear, and at like every half-hour increment, so 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, it has a little chime. Sounds kind of like a toaster oven. And at the even numbers, so 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it plays like a little dong sound, and but it'll go, like if it's 11 o'clock, it'll do it 11 times. If it's 4 o'clock, it'll do it 4 times. So anyways, I know it's not car related, but it's pretty cool that I got that old clock working. Okay, so I had to change the caliper and the hose. They were both leaking. These are the old ones here. Well, by old, they're brand new, but they were leaking like crazy. The caliper has a really horrible mating surface for the hose. And then I just bought a new hose because they were cheap. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to change them both. So those are both in. I haven't put fluid to them yet. I've just been doing this really crappy way of doing like your own alignment. So the most important thing is the toe in. And you want to be an 1/8 inch in. So what that means is, I'm sure some of you guys know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, you want the front of the tire to be an 1/8 inch in further than like the whole thing on center. So what a really quick, easy way to do it is just the string trick. You take a piece of string, and your rear tires and diff should be straight as long as everything's bolted in straight. I usually just use a jack stand on one end. And you just run the string down to the front, you tie it to a jack stand, and you just want to move this one here back and forth until this part here and this part here are just exactly the same. You don't want, like, you just want this just barely touching and this barely touching. You don't want a 1/4 inch gap here, because otherwise you won't be straight down there. So you just sort of get them so they're both just touching. And then at the front, you just tie it to another jack stand. And then that way you have a straight line to measure off of. And so what I've got here, so what you do is you just want a 1/4 inch diff, or an 1/8 inch in. So here I'm at 3/4 of an inch, and if I measure here, I'm at 7/8. That's an 1/8 inch. So that's all you need to do. It's really easy. It's really basic. But it's an easy way, you know, if you don't have an alignment rack or you don't want to take it down to a shop and you just want to figure out your toe in, that's all you have to do. And then this is your tie rod assembly. You just loosen the clamps there and turn the adjusting sleeve to get your tie rods to move in and out. The reason you want toe in is because you want the wheels kind of pulling towards each other when you're going down the road. If you have toe out, your car is going to wander all over the road because the wheels are both pointed out. When they're pointed in, they sort of are like a driving force towards each other. So anyways, hope that makes sense. It's an easy way to do a quick home alignment that will at least get you down the road. Okay, so here's my thoughts on the gas tank. This tank I just pulled out of this 68 Monaco. I'll show you guys the car here. This is a 68 Dodge Monaco two-door hardtop. It's a 318 car, automatic. And somebody spent some time underneath it cleaning it up. The tank actually looks really nice. The sending unit's new. You could tell it's all shiny. You know, the 8 3/4, everything's nice and cleaned up under there. But then the guy I got it from took all the glass out of it, parted out what he wanted, and then was going to scrap it. So that's how it ended up here. But if you look at this tank, it is actually, it's really nice shape. The sending unit looks nice and new. There's nothing in it. I don't know if they ever put gas in it, but it's not all banged up. So I just measured in the wagon. Here. Okay, now in the back of the wagon, my thoughts were, because the original tank was actually behind this panel and it mounted vertical, but it's completely rotted out and I don't have another one that would fit there. So my thoughts were, you know, rather than spend crazy money, I've seen the tanks online, they're like 800 US. My God, that's going to be like, by the time I get it, that's well over 1,500 bucks with the exchange and shipping. I'm not doing that on this thing. So we're going to use what we have, or try to. So that Monaco tank, I was originally thinking of putting the long way this way, but I don't have 40 inches here. It's like 32. But I got 40 inches across if I lay the tank on top of these steps here. They sort of step down. This is just the trunk pan. Now, I'm not worried about this taking up space because this tailgate does not open. I welded it shut because the hinges down below were so rusty and crappy that this is just what we had to do with this tailgate. So it looks cool. The window does roll up and down, but there's, yeah, we're not opening it. So I'm not worried about stuff being here. And a couple guys have said, oh yeah, but the tank's going to be then inside the car. So what? The tank in my Ford pickup and the dump truck and my 49 Fargo are all behind the seat. This isn't anything new to me. It's not like it's going to fume in here. I'm still going to vent it outside. Anyways, so if we go this way with it, long ways, like go sideways with it, I was thinking I can actually drill a hole in this panel, send the filler neck out this panel. We'll seal it up and everything so there's no water spraying in when you're driving. But send the filler neck out this panel because the factory filler hole or tube location is right here. So what if we just had a tube going down here and then join it with some radiator hose or something to the filler neck on the tank from the Monaco? I could probably still maybe hook up that sending unit. I don't know if it would work with these gauges, but if the resistance readings are the same, it'll work. And then I just have to plumb the hard line. That's my plan, because I don't want to go with a fuel cell, something where I constantly have to roll down the window to fuel up. I don't want to go with, and fuel cells often are not big enough. I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to go that route if I don't have to. Yeah, so that's my plan. I'm going to see how it fits in there and see how everything lines up. Okay, so I got the gas tank is in. This is what I came up with for the filler neck. So the filler neck is that bottom piece down here. That's the filler neck on the gas tank. I drilled a hole through that inner tub, put that filler neck through, and then up top there, that filler neck coming down is from a 67 Valiant. So it was actually quite long. I cut it down. I used a section of it there in the center. So then the fuel line is on this side. I just poked it through this tub, ran it down, and it runs along the frame. I still got to strap it better. And then those two little lines there coming out, those are vents that are on the gas tank. And I looked in the service manual and it just shows having some vent lines that get bent up and down, and it basically just vents the tank. So I'm just going to bend, that's just brake line. So I'm just going to bend it by hand up and back down. Then I've got the drive shaft back in. I just have to bolt this side up. This is the ball and trunnion side. I've got to bolt this back up. I did change the U-joint on this side. This U-joint was out of my 57 Royal. It was fairly new, but I put a newer 8 3/4 in it, so I changed the U-joint, and I figured I should just use it up here, so it's in this rear end. Yeah, and the brakes are all done under here. I haven't bled them yet, but they're all the hard line and everything. I ran new hard lines, hoses, everything. The kick down lever I got to figure out. And then the exhaust. I got to get the exhaust welded up. So I'm going to do that pretty quick here. That's a big one to just get out of the way. So these pipes were, like this one here and the collector were actually from the 58 Dodge parts car. And then so was this tailpipe. Oops. So was this tailpipe that goes over the axle. So it's just sitting there. It's not actually clamped down right now. It's just sort of floating. I'm going to move that a bit to get it away from the frame. But I put these glass packs in. I hate glass packs, but they were here. They're like brand new. I think they were run once, and you know what? They're here. You may as well use them up. I can always change them later, but just for now, just to get this thing kind of on the road here. And who knows? Maybe they'll sound okay in here because it's got full exhaust. I think the vehicle they came out of had short exhaust, and it just sounded awful. It was just like an old tractor trying to run on 30-year-old gas. Anyways, so I've got to put a piece in to join these two, but I don't know if you can see, the angle is not right. I'm going to actually trim this one back a bit so it's not pointing straight down. However, I've got to bend a piece of pipe, and I've got a bunch of chunks on the floor here I've been using and cutting up came from other cars, but nothing's really lining up. So what I'm going to try is I've got this pipe bender. You guys probably see these all the time on Marketplace and stuff. I'm pretty sure these are for like square tubing and round bar. They're not for exhaust, but we're going to try it anyways. I've got a piece in here. I've got it marked. I need the other side to be the one that's like where it's sort of bent. So I've got it set up in here. I'm going to try jacking it up. Looks like I've never even used it. Looks like you just jack this up slowly. And this might bend, or it might screw the whole thing up, and we'll have to go a different route. Okay, so here's what it did. It did bend it, right? We got somewhat of a bend there. It's hard to tell, but it does bend down. The only thing is it sort of kinks one side, and then flattens the other side. And then it sort of deformed the end here that was underneath that part. But it did bend it, which is good. I can use that. It's not flattened. I'm not too worried about it losing its round shape, so long as it still will flow the same. Like that kink, I'm not too worried about that. It's not like it's halfway through the pipe. So I've marked it again here, because I've got to bend it now like this. The pipe kind of sits like this in the car, but this end is still too high. So we're going to bend it on that line, try and bend it down like a U shape down just a little bit so that'll line up with the other pipe. I mean, if that's all I use this for, is just small gentle bends where we just got to make stuff fit a little better, then I'll just keep it around. It doesn't take much space. Okay, so I got the exhaust done. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's under the car. No one will see it except me. And then the nice thing that worked out well is the tailpipes are both basically exact, like in line with each other there. I don't know how well you can see it. There's the one. Anyways, hard to see in the camera, but yeah, they basically both end exactly kind of like underneath the bumper here. So I might just get some cheap chrome tips or something goofy and just stick them out just a little further. It might kind of clean up the back end, make it look better. Okay, I'm getting pretty close to starting this thing. The last couple days I was working on taking this window out because I've got the tinted one in the other door. The other door was the door on this car, but it was really rusty. So I changed. This door is for my parts car, which is also a two-door wagon. But the glass is clear. Now the rest of the glass on this car has a green tint. I don't know if you can see it in the camera very well or not, but in person it's a pretty neat looking car with the green tinted glass. And anyways, this one's clear. I'm going to change it, but it's been bit of a pain to take out. I did get the regulator out, but there's this bolt here that sort of holds another part of the regulator, like some arms in there. Well, you try and get it off and it just spins inside. So I'm going to have to cut it off, I think, and get creative when I fix it. I just put the plug wires on. I did find top dead center already. What I usually do is I take the number 1 plug out and I put my finger over the hole, the spark plug hole. Then I turn the key or bypass it right here on the starter relay. And as it rotates, as the piston comes up and it's on the compression stroke, you will know, because it will put pressure against your finger, and the pressure from the compression will actually kind of push your finger up. You'll hear it make a sound. So that's all I ever do. Then you know you're on the compression stroke. Then you can rotate it by hand and get the line to line up on the balancer with the mark. Then you know you're at top dead center and you're not 180 out on the exhaust stroke. So I did that. I've got the distributor in, turned, pointed at number 1 kind of thing, whatever. And now I've just been putting coolant in the radiator. So I have learned my lesson over the years to not start with, a bunch of jugs of coolant. Start with water and then do coolant. And get your ratios right, but at least if it starts dumping everything out the bottom, or there's a leak or a pinhole, then all you've wasted is some water, not a bunch of coolant on the floor. I learned the hard way, and I probably made the mistake multiple times, but I've been putting water in it. I put a jug in it so far, no leaks, which is excellent news, because I did solder this. I soldered it kind of down there, a couple spots, so hopefully the frost plugs hold in the engine, and the head gaskets and everything else. I did put 5 liters of transmission fluid in it, just so that if we're cranking on it, the pump isn't pumping nothing. You don't want to run the pump dry or try and crank it with no fluid. So this wire was for the temp gauge, and when you ground it out, it moves the temp gauge, so that's excellent news. So I put a thermostat in here. I had to use an adapter. Over here I got this goofy thing because I had to extend this hose, and of course I didn't have any left, so I put one of these old, what are they, Presto lights or whatever they're called. It's just like, it's where you hook a hose up to flush the line. I don't know, whatever, it's what I had. I had to shorten this rod for the throttle. It was actually 2 inches longer. I just cut it and welded it here, shortened it up so that it'll work with this carb. There's not a lot of pedal movement, but it might be my rod going down to the pedal. There's only an inch. It does move here. I don't have any fuel in it, but it will move that far, which is actually pretty good. But we'll see what it does once it's all done. Carb is on. This is actually a different carb. This is a 650 as well, without a choke. It was pretty cheap actually, so that's what's on here. I still have to make a hose, or bend up a steel line to go to the distributor. It's got one of those vacuum canisters where you have to thread the line in, and then I'll just adapt it to rubber over here for the vacuum advance. I took the steering wheel off and took apart the steering column where the signal is. This wire in the center is the horn. So here's the turn signal switch, and how it works is on this side there's this little pin. Normally that sits in the center, and you move it one way, you get your left turn signals, move it the other, you get your right turn signals. On this side is my, that's all the connections. So I think red is power in, and then if I remember right, light green should be my front right, or front left maybe, and tan is the other one. And then I've got brown and dark green are my rears. So the rears work fine, neither of the fronts are working. And I don't have any, I used a test light, I don't have any power coming out of light green or tan. So I think I have to open up this guy, this little metal case here, and I have to, maybe the connections are corroded, I'm not sure, but I have to clean it up. Hopefully we can get a connection through there. If I can't, I'm going to have to pull one out of probably the parts car in the back and hope that maybe it works. I don't know. So there's a couple little things to do there. I did put the brake light switch. There's the brake light switch. Just your regular A body, B body brake light switch. And I just mounted it to the frame up there. And it works now against the pedal. And then gas gauge. is actually working, which I can't believe. So here, I don't know if you guys can see, if I think the battery's hooked up. If I turn the key on, see it moves to the middle? Well, that's because the, you can hear it flashing. That is the empty in the sending unit. So I pulled that sending unit out and I moved it at the back of the car, and I could see the gauge moving while I moved the sending unit. Full is full, but empty reads half on here. Now, I don't know if that's like an issue with the resistance. If it reads full when I fill it, and then it slowly makes its way down to half, and then we know that half is empty, I'm okay with that. I just have to remember it, but like, that's better than no gas gauge. Everything, it's like such a struggle to have a working fuel gauge. So I'm okay with that. Okay, so I took this apart, and there's a bunch of pins inside with springs. Of course, I lost one of the springs, so I had to make a spring. Anyways, I finally got that back together. I just had to clean up the contacts in it because it was allowing the rears to blink, but not the fronts. So right now, we've got the rear blinking. Hey, look at that! They're actually blinking in the dash. I didn't know that was going to work. This thing is crazy. Anyways, at least we got something. The fuel filter's been pumping up because I did put about 25 liters of gas in that tank this morning. So I'm just going to crank on it. It does seem to flash off right away, so I just thought I'd show you guys. I do have to set the timing. I just checked. It says 5 to 7 degrees before top dead center. I'll probably just set it at 7, and I'm just going to turn the idle up and let it run for like 20 minutes. It's going to get really smoky in here because it's burning off all kinds of stuff. I really hope it builds oil pressure. But yeah, I'm just going to let it run. I don't care if it's charging the battery right now. We'll see how the rad does. Hopefully it's okay. Turn the key. Yeah, I just set it to 7 degrees. I'm just going to turn the idle up a little bit. We're just going to let it run. Just wanted to break in all the everything. I don't even think this engine's ever been run before. It's a little clattery. So I got to make sure there's oil pressure. Just check the oil pressure. Hopefully it's doing something. Oh yeah, we got 75 pounds. We're doing good. 75 pounds of oil pressure. You can see the gas gauge is up there. We'll watch and see if that temp gauge moves. That'd be great. Just gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna grab a meter. I may as well. I did polarize the generator, so it'd be nice if it was charging. We got 13, it's climbing, slowly climbing, 13.2 volts. But keep in mind, generators, you got to rev the engine up to charge, so that's a really good sign. But it's starting to burn off stuff. We're going to go all back, and oh yeah, it's a bit smoky, but that's okay. It's just breaking in those rings and stuff. Probably hasn't run in, well, I don't know if it ever did. So it sounds pretty good though, actually. I don't mind if there's blue smoke, that's fine. This isn't an old revival. This is like a fresh engine build from the 90s. We still got oil pressure. Yeah, still got good oil pressure. Okay, so this is my parts car. This is a 57 Dodge custom Suburban, but it's the same. It's a Canadian car, so it's exact same as the Plymouth, other than it had a Dodge front clip. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure the fenders, some part of the bumpers and stuff came from this car, and I put them on the Plymouth. So but it's a great parts car. I know it's hard to see right now. It's got a bunch of crap leaned on it, piled on it, but it is a two-door wagon. It's got same glass, same, actually there's the tailgate for it there. But anyways, I'll show you the seats. Here is one of them. This is the bottom. It's rough. It's not good. But I don't have anything else. The Plymouth never had it when I got it. And so I'm just going to have to make do with what I have. All I ever saw was the bottom of it because I never actually saw it flipped over. It was rusted and stuck in place. And but it's got these little arms here, which is good. Okay, I've got the door glass out. I did remove the regulator, and then I removed the regulator and glass from the other door. So I don't know if you guys can tell the difference in the color. I can see it, but that's the clear window. This is the green window, the green tinted glass. So this is what we're going to put back in. The rest of the car has it. I'm just cleaning up the bottom track here with glass cleaner and an X-Acto blade. Just trying to clean it up. This track actually came off the clear glass. The track that came off the green glass is here, and it's all rotten, right? It's just falling apart. So luckily we've got one good one. I'm gonna clean up this glass, put this track on here, and then reassemble it in the door. This was awful to do. I couldn't get it to line up here with the bolt, and there's three pins that slide inside. There's two go into the window channel, and then one actually goes into the door, and you have to get them to all line up at the same time, and then you got to get the bolts in for the regulator. Oh, it was a nightmare. It took me probably, I don't know, 3 separate mornings of screwing around and swearing at it to finally get it to go. So it does roll up and down. That's the seat back. That came out of the parts car. I know, it's crazy. It actually looks pretty good from here. Somehow it survived. It was just covered in green, like algae. So I just cleaned it up a bit. But I think what I am going to do probably is fold it down. And it should just pivot. Yeah, see, it just pivots in the holders and the quarter panels. But that's the back. And I'm thinking I'll probably just put the other back here with that backing facing up. And that's it. And I don't, because then I can cover up my crappy floor pan that I did. What else did I do? I put the radio delete plate in there. If you can see that. I got the wipers working. So the wiper motor, remember we pulled it apart? It does work. But the pivots were seized. And so I freed them up. I hooked it all up and I ran it, and it spins. Everything works. Now I've got these are like those bolt-on wiper arms. I've got to re-hook up this fuel line. I ended up grouting it down. I was trying to figure out an air cleaner. Nothing seems to work. The hood's too close to the carburetor. That's why they had these air cleaners like this car. See, this is the factory carb with the air cleaner. That's why they did that. It's because there's no hood clearance. So you got this, the air cleaner's actually over there, or the filter, and then it comes through the carb. And oh, I got the hood letters on there. I just put the Dodge letters on the front because the holes were there. I had to change the hood latch. The one in here, whoops. The one in here, this little hook was actually shorter, and you couldn't open the hood. I put the horn in. Okay, I bought this, this is called hardboard. It's like 1/4-inch hardboard. It's basically just wood. Well, it is wood, but it's kind of got a texture to it. I think it's the same as pegboard. It just doesn't have the holes. So a sheet of this was like 40 bucks. I measured for door panels the other day, and each door is like 4 feet by 2 feet. So that's half of a sheet, right? That'd be 4 feet by 4 feet. And then the back door, or the back panels, I put one here, but it wasn't, I didn't have enough, right? So I just went out and bought a full sheet. This was just a piece I had. But this is just like to put a backer there. And then I'm thinking I'm going to use, I've got some trim and stuff from that Royal, that parts car. Now the air cleaner, I've sort of was trying to figure something out. This is the one I was going to use, and it's pretty cool. It's got the old Mopar sticker on there. But I don't know what it's from, and see, it's oval here. Now the one on my 57 Royal right there is round here. So you get a round air cleaner. I feel like this one you're supposed to use an oval one. I don't have any oval air cleaners. Or filters, sorry. I don't have a clue where I'm going to find it. And I don't have the end of this. I don't have the piece that bolts on. So what I came up with was this piece here. It was actually a slant 6 single barrel air cleaner. I cut the hole. So what I think I'm going to do is try and utilize this thing and put this on top of it. So it actually sits there. Hard to hold. See, it does sit there. It'll sit flush. I could weld this base to the air cleaner, that like this old one here, and just seal it up. Now down on this end, I'll have to use an adapter. Now Mr. Gasket makes an adapter. I've actually ordered one at Lordco in town there. It's there waiting for me. It goes from 5 1/8 down to, I think this was, I want to say this was 4 1/8. It had to go just an inch smaller, but they did have one. They were able to bring it in. So I'm going to go pick it up, use the adapter on the carb, then this to the adapter. Then if I weld this thing here, then I can put, you're right, just put a threaded rod in here, and then use this on the side of it. And as long as it all clears underneath, I am happy with that. Alright, so here's sort of the final result. Well, not final, not yet. I'm going to paint it. This guy, I ended up drilling a hole. Let's see if you can see it here. So the center hole was here. I welded that shut, and then I drilled a hole in this ridge, and that actually works pretty perfect, right? It sits perfectly over top. It's still offset from the top. Now we're looking at the bottom here, so we got a huge overhang on the bottom. But and what I did was I cut a big slot out the side to get more air flowing through it, because look how close it is to the base when it's sitting where it's supposed to. Okay, so this is where the final sort of look is. See, it's offset there. You won't really see this end. It kind of sits in the passenger fender well, but that's fine. Here's the other side. See how it's much lower here. It's only like an inch up. Before it was 2 or 3 inches up when it was centered. So that'll give us lots of hood clearance. This thing actually tapers down. You can see it. There's level, and then it tapers down. So it will hang lower. And then on the bottom side, where you won't really see it anyways, I've got that slot cut. We get lots of airflow. So that's what I came up with. I like it. I'm happy with it. You know, it's one of those things, if you don't try, you won't know. I had to weld a nut on the side to keep, so I had something to bolt this through, because it's just thin sheet metal. This bracket came off the 325 parts car in the back. Okay, I'm just working on the door panels. This is that hardboard that I was talking about. I just painted it black. The only black paint I have is some Tremclad, which for you Americans, it's Rust-Oleum, same thing. It's like a rust paint, not meant for wood, but whatever. That's what I got. Here's the other side. I just mirrored it. Basically, I just measured for the holes. This is the window roller, and this is to open the door. And then I've got 2 holes under here. Those are for the armrest holes. And then I just cut it. I just held it up to the door and ran a pencil along the back side. And then got the corners that I needed. This top edge will go up underneath the window trim, and then I'll just put some screws down in the corners to hold it in place, and I think the rest will sort of hold it in. The armrest should suck it tight. I got the front door panels done, so this is what I was going for. We just took that hardboard, painted it black. This trim is from a 57 Royal. It normally would get clipped onto like the vinyl door panel. Like I said, I don't have any that are any good. They're all pretty mangled. The handles, I just cleaned them up, put them back on. These armrests are from the rear of an A body, 67 to 72-ish, 73 maybe. And they have the ashtray cups for them. I just got to put the ashtrays in. They're green, they're dark green. I didn't have anything that was black. I was searching high and low. I originally wanted to use the C body ones that I have, which are a lot longer and they're a lot nicer than that, and they're black. But they actually don't work with the two, there's 2 braces behind the door panel that hold the armrest, and the screw holes are like 2 inches out. They're not going to work. I'm not able to move them. So these were super close. I had to re-drill a hole in the brace for one of these, for the rear, I think. But anyways, that's that. They're in. I'm happy with them. That side's in too. So same thing. I think it turned out really nice. And when you're sitting in the car and there's just some nice stainless on there, it makes it pop pretty nice. So I'm going to do the rears, and the rears are the same thing. I've got some pieces that should work for the stainless, and yeah, and then we can put the back seats in. I strapped the gas tank down. I sort of just sealed up those things. I did paint, this is that tray that we're going to put in there. I just painted it with some black trim clad, some rust paint basically, just to get it to kind of just blend in really. I managed to get the back seat in, the portion here, so there's the little support leg. It's just going to stay down because it's so mangled on the seat bottom. There's no point flipping it up. It's just going to look horrible. I still got to clean this section. It's actually just sitting there. I got to glue it down. It just popped up. So I'm going to just use some black RTV probably and just sort of go back and forth with it and then glue that down. No one's ever going to be back here other than maybe me. I'm going to clean this up and then just paint it black. That's the gas tank cover. Now I've got to build it up a little bit because it's just sitting on the tank and it's actually sitting on the filler neck and sort of on the vent tube a bit. So I just got to build it up a little bit. It's not going to be functional. It's just going to sit there to cover the gas tank. So when you look back here, you don't see it. I know it looks kind of goofy sitting up like that. I got to do something with like that stuff hanging down and kind of clean this up. I don't want to peel this out because it's crazy that it's factory and it's still there. I know it looks like terrible, but it's there. We'll just leave it. Kind of part of the car's originality-ish. Whatever's original. I've got these little crowns on here. These just cover the gap between these two pieces of trim, but it definitely needs them. You know, when you step back, it sort of just completes the look of the front end. And my buddy Eric, he's got a pipe for me. I found it in his mom's stuff. I guess his mom's elderly, or I'm not sure if she's still around, but there was a pipe. So that little thing on the dash is actually a pipe holder, and that was in this car when it was in the field in my buddy's house. So I was looking around for a cheap pipe. I don't want to pay, you know, the prices at the antique store, but anyways, Eric said he has one, so that's perfect. I'm going to put that in there. Not that I'm going to smoke it, but just for looks. I had a 6-blade on here, but it was warped. So when you'd run the engine, the fan would wobble like crazy. And I do not want to wear up this water pump. So I took this fan. This is a 4-blade. This is actually from that 57 Dodge with a 325 in the backyard. And it's actually 2 inches wider than the other one. So it actually covers more surface area on the radiator. I don't care if we're down to a 4 from a 6. The other one was small. It wasn't actually pulling air from far enough on the rad. Alright, so I got some carpet in. It is not actual automotive carpet. It's actually just, it's an area rug for, not even an area rug, it's actually just like the floor mat when you come in your front door. It was a 4x8 roll. It was $50 at Canadian Tire. The reason I went with this is because you can't get carpet kits for these cars. The closest thing is like a 60s C-body, and they were like $400-500 by the time I would get it. Rock Auto, and it's like an AC carpet kit. Anyways, I didn't want to pay $500 for a carpet kit for this car, so I went to Canadian Tire in town here, and this thing was $50, and I just cut it to go. I cut a hole there to go down around the gas pedal. I fed it up there. I trimmed it a little bit around the hump there. I did have to put, like you can see behind the pedal there's like a screw with a washer. That's just to hold it from bunching up under the gas pedal. But I did put it underneath the seat frame. I use an old soldering iron to burn the holes in it, to put the bolts through. The rears here, it's not actually down. I cut around the seat tracks, and then I just put it underneath the frame for this back seat to hold it down. The sill plates are just what I could find in the backyard. They are period correct, but they're really in poor shape, so that's why I actually use them up. Yeah, and then that mat, that was actually in my 67 Newport. The guy didn't want it when I sold the car, and I thought, you know what, it'll keep all the pine needles and stuff from getting jammed in this rug, and it is period correct too, so. But yeah, and then I did put these chrome exhaust tips on. I'm not crazy about them. They were actually on another car that I had done some work on. They were like 2 feet longer. I just shortened them, cut them on an angle, welded them to the tailpipes. I don't love them actually. After I thought about it, I thought, oh, I should have somehow routed it up here, but that would never work. I'd have to drill a hole in the bumper. But I don't know if I'm going to keep them down there like that. I might shoot them out the sides too. Being a station wagon, the fumes will come up and work their way back inside the cab. So we'll see how bad it is. If it's really bad, we'll reroute the exhaust. Yeah, and then a friend of mine was selling these tires. Well, he wasn't selling these tires. He had these tires on his Roadrunner, and his wife said, nope, they're too old. I want them off. Let's put new ones on. And so I just bought them for like 200 bucks. But the front ones are like brand new. Tons of tread. They even got the little cross pieces where you know that they're new, like the rubber there. So I'm very happy with these. The fronts are a 215 70-15. The rears are like a 275, I think. Yeah, these are a 275 60-15. So I couldn't say no. They're wider than the ones that I had on the back. And the tons of tread left. There's absolutely zero weather checking. They're still soft. They were super easy to mount. And I put the white letter out because it sort of made the car look a little better, I think. I did put insurance on it. That all went smooth. The girl was like, wow, this hasn't been on the road in a while. It was last insured in 1972. So this is the first time it'll be driving around since 72. That is a long time ago. So hopefully it doesn't fall apart. Okay, here's our first trip in the car in ever. So let's see what it does. The brakes are still slightly weird. Oh god, manual steering. That's hard to hold the camera. But we're just going to go up the road. We've got a little bit of gas. We're going to drive around, probably go to the gas station, see what it does. Here, I'm going to put you guys on the dash here. Hopefully you can see. Hey, it shifted in the second. Awesome. And third. Actually drives pretty nice. That gas pedal is touchy. Going into third, but we'll just keep that in mind. My 57 Royal actually does that too. It's a little weird. A little bit of vibrations, that's what I expect. Yeah, speedometer works. Oh, that's cool. It's a little odd since we're doing 40 miles an hour. I don't think we are. But gas gauge is working. Temp gauge is taking full, but this temp gauge is pretty inaccurate. Got a pretty good vibration coming out of the rear. I don't know if the tires are shaking or what's going on, or it's just the way the car is, maybe. Well, I just turned around, I'm gonna head back. It runs fine, but third gear is funny. It actually has almost like I wouldn't say a miss, maybe it's the kick down, something's going on. It feels like it's running on 6 cylinders when you're in third gear. I don't know what that's all about, but hey, not bad for being off the road for all these years. But it is shaky in the rear, gotta figure that out. I don't know if the drive shaft maybe needs balanced, or it's coming through the seat, which should be the rear end, so we'll check that out. Yeah. And the gas pedal kind of sucks. It's like you almost can't get full throttle on it, so I'm gonna have to come up with something else for well, since the test drive, I've actually been doing quite a bit of work to it. So we had that issue where it would run awesome through first gear, through second gear, and then third gear, as soon as it would shift into third gear, it would start to stumble and miss. I don't think it's a fuel issue because I wasn't even necessarily getting on it. It just, third gear is kind of when you're actually under load because your gear ratio in the transmission is not short enough to really just kind of scoot the car along. So that's when the car actually starts to work. And this is a heavy car. So, yeah, so I was having this weird miss. And so what I did was I pulled the distributor apart. And it was super gummed up inside. I guess I never really looked at it. I just grabbed it, put points in it, put it in there. It was kind of a stupid move on my part. But the advance weights, the mechanical advance, the weights, which are like underneath the plate. Now this is a different distributor, but underneath the plate there's the advance weights with the springs. One of the springs, the heavy spring, was stretched right out, and so the weight wasn't able to pull back. And so, because I noticed when I set the timing on it, at 8 degrees, the book says 5 to 8 degrees initial. And at 8 degrees, it would kick back on the starter. So I reduced it back to 5 degrees, retarded it down. And even then, it was a little funny. I even had to retard it more. Like, it should not be kicking back on the starter at 5 degrees. That's crazy. So, you would think it would kick back on the starter at, say, like 20 degrees. 5 degrees, that's nothing. So, that was weird. Anyways, so I cleaned up that distributor. I put it back in. Well, then I drove it, and I left my driveway out front there. And as soon as I turned the corner, there goes the dog. As soon as I turned the corner, just in first gear, it stumbled and died. Then I could not get it to start. I was parked in front of the neighbor's house, 2 driveways up from my own, and it was acting like it was like super advanced, kicking back on the starter, and it was only at like top dead center. It was not even advanced. It was crazy. So I barely got it to start. I pulled a U-turn, started driving back, then it died again. And you can idle it down the road, but as soon as you give it any kind of acceleration, it dies. So I pulled that distributor out. I had to weld at the end of the distributor shaft longer so that it will reach the oil pump drive down below. So this distributor is out of a 360 that I have, and I had to weld the end of it, the shaft at the bottom. So I took the whole thing apart, took the shaft out, cleaned it all up. I extended the actual shaft that goes through it about just shy of half an inch. It's about 3/8 of an inch. And welded it, smoothed it out, cleaned it up, put it back together. Now this is a magnetic pickup used in 70, I believe 72 was the first year for electronic ignition. It was optional, but 72 and up, they had this magnetic pickup. And then you got 2 wires. And so what I'm going to do is I've got these, it's an HEI, it's just a little banana. I like using them. I don't love the Mopar electronic ignition. I've used it before in many vehicles, and the problem is when it dies, it just dies randomly. Or you buy them and right out of the box they're junk. You got to buy the really good ones. So the HEI that I've been using, it's like $15 on Rock Auto. It has not given me any issues, and I've put it in like 6 cars now. What you do is 2 of these wires, these 2, go to 2 pins on the HEI. I've got a little diagram inside. And then the other 2 wires on the HEI go to the coil, positive and negative. And then you got to feed the coil with 12 volts switched, obviously. And then you got to ground the HEI. And that is it. There's 4, well technically 5 wires, but 4 wires. And you just build it. I build it on like a little aluminum plate where it stands off the firewall, because it's like a heat sink, so you got to put dielectric grease on the back and allow it to breathe. But other than that, they're super easy. And what you do is you eliminate your ballast resistor, because this coil does not need to be cut down. So you just run 12 volts straight power to it, and then you can use your stock Mopar distributors. So I like to use it because it's a simple upgrade And then the rears, I had to change, I changed out those rear tapered hubs for another set. And I actually changed the whole rear hub and brake drum assembly, and I took them off of that 58 Dodge parts car that I got in the back. That's the car that this 354 came from. So those brakes are actually wider. They're like, I think they're 11 by 2.5, or maybe, yeah, they're 11 by 2.5. So I had to change the backing plate. I had to change the drum because the drum was wider. But it looks like, online at least, that these brake shoes you can actually find. The ones that were on here were quite skinny. They were like 1.75 inches maybe. And you can't find them anywhere. So this was a worthy upgrade. And that parts car had all new brake shoes in it. Somebody had put all new shoes. We swapped all the brakes out. Now the brake pedal actually has a nice feel to it. It doesn't just go to the floor. There's an issue with the oil pump drive. So this is the oil pump drive that was in the engine. Now, inside there's a slot, right? And that's where the end of the distributor would sit, in here. And on the other end, it's got a groove, and that runs your oil pump. So this spline here runs off the cam. And so it's a dual purpose, right? At the top side, you run the distributor. The bottom side runs the oil pump. Now, this is the one that came out of the engine. And notice when I put this, well, here, I'll use the stock distributor that came out of that car. This distributor, you put it in, that's as far as it goes. It does grab, but just barely. It's not really sitting down in there. And so I didn't realize that until I started with this distributor. In the car, fired it up, runs awesome, runs so much better. So obviously we were having an issue with the mechanical advance. However, I noticed the whole body was moving. Like when it was running, the whole thing was kind of moving like this. Like just minor, but a little bit. And I thought, well, that's weird. Is the shaft bent? So I welded the end on it. That's all good. I go to put it in this oil pump drive. It won't sit down. It won't go down at all. I'm like, what is going on here? So I used a caliper and I measured this end with the original end to make sure everything's the same. This one's actually slightly smaller width-wise. It's the same thickness. Won't go in there. So this oil pump drive is from the 354 Hemi over there. And they're the same oil pump drives because they're basically the same engine. And I thought, well, let's just clean out the inside here with some brake clean and see what happens here. So if you take the original distributor, it drops right down. See over here? It doesn't go down. This one drops right in. If I take the distributor that I modified, it drops right in. So I'm gonna clean up this oil pump drive. I don't know why inside there, it's almost like on the left there, it's almost like it's in further than this one. This one's nice and straight. This one, maybe this is an aftermarket one. I don't know. Like maybe somebody, when they had that engine built, they bought a different one. Who knows? But we're going to clean up this one. This is an original. And I'm going to drop this in. And it's not shorter, it's just down further in the vise. But I'm going to drop this in. We're going to run this distributor in there and see if that wobbling goes away. Because I feel like if it's going to run like that and consistently wobble, eventually we're just going to wear out the bushings inside, right? And it's going to throw the timing off and stuff. So, one thing after another here, but we're getting there. At least we're sort of finding out some issues, make things better. Okay, well I wired up that HEI to that Excel coil. That's that LA distributor. I didn't even set the timing, guys. I just set it for top dead center. I just guessed on where the distributor should sit. I turned the key and it flashed up immediately. So that is a huge improvement already. Every other time it would kick back on that starter, and then you're always messing with the distributor. So I'm just gonna let it run for a bit here. Then I'm gonna actually check the timing. I mean, it sounds great. It flashed up immediately and it's running way smoother. Way smoother. But what I'm going to do is I'll let it run for a few minutes. I will actually check the timing with the timing light. Okay, I'm just out in it again with the distributor changed. I changed that oil pump drive. So way better throttle response. First, second, third gear, already in third. Zero bogging. Oh man, what a difference. Barely even get into it and this thing just scoots along. So that whole time, it was a combination, I think, of the oil pump drive not having a big enough opening for that distributor. I think it must have been slipping. Maybe the drive was spinning and it was the distributor was just slipping and misfiring and then it would stall. That's my guess. So I don't know if it was an aftermarket thing or what was going on, but I'm just headed to the gas station because remember, half a tank is empty. Well, we're pretty close there, so I'm just going to go to the gas station and fill up and then just drive around Arrington for a bit here. And first gear, second, shifting into third. It's a pretty quick shift, but that's okay. That's what my 57 Royal does too. It's yeah, you just kind of let it be. But as long as in third gear we're not bogging like we were before, this is so much better. So if this is how this is going to drive, we're going to cruise this around a bunch. The car show's in like a week and a half. I really want to take it there, but I did not want to be trying to get it to run, you know, trying to drive it over there, bogging down. And so much better. No more bogging. Oh man, this thing is awesome. And since I changed those rear hubs, it's actually driving quite nice. So much better. I don't know if my turn signals are working. The left one works, but I don't know if the right one's working. But it's little issues we can figure out. I also don't know if it's charging. I checked this morning and it's like 12.8 volts, which you want like 13 and a half, 14. So 12.8 is not the best, but we'll work with what we got. Okay, just left the gas station. It still kicks back a little bit on the starter, so I think the timing is still a bit advanced. I'm going to mess with the timing a bit, but doing 50 miles an hour, probably off a little bit. Those tires are pretty tall, but so we're probably doing 45 miles an hour. But man, it actually drives nice and straight. It's not scary. It's not noisy in here. I'm not getting fumed out. My gas gauge seemed to have stopped working though. I filled the tank and it's still reading just over half. Maybe it'll eventually work its way up. I hope so. It'd be nice to have a working fuel gauge. Temp gauge reads high. Maybe that's the timing. Maybe it is a bit advanced. I can't hear it detonating, but yeah, good oil pressure. This is what we wanted. This is what we wanted on the first test drive. So that distributor was a huge, huge improvement. Still got to get that pipe from my buddy there, Eric. Nice to see going over big bumps that the windows didn't fall out, because you guys remember it's pretty those window channels are pretty rusty. Up to 65 miles an hour. Probably not accurate. Doesn't feel like we're actually going that fast, but yeah, this speedometer doesn't jump around. Like it actually, this is good. It actually drives pretty nice. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. yeah, this is pretty much as far as I think I'm going to take it with this car. I'll slowly pick away at little things and clean up the interior more, and I got to figure out some kind of cover for the bottom of the seat, because where it's falling apart there, it's all sticky for some reason. So probably put like a Mexican blanket, that kind of look on the seat bottom. But yeah, I think from the beginning of this project to the end, I'm super happy with it. So thanks for watching the revival of this 58 Plymouth Suburban two-door station wagon, which has been off the road since 1972. Thanks guys, see you on the next one.